Let's see what's up with Andrew Callahan. The Kamala Harris election loss, and lose she did.
I'm definitely scared about us turning into Nazi Germany.
This shit is about survival for a lot of people.
He doesn't stand for women. He doesn't stand for people of color. So honestly, I think Trump being president, it just means the end of all of us having rights.
It's black people.
You think that you're not going to have rights anymore because Donald Trump is president? Really?
White people, immigrants, that's all poor. That shit about everybody vote who was poor.
When was America ever great?
MAGA folks want to turn the clock back on certain things that aren't progressive that I'm not in support of, so.
I feel like I have no words right now, to be honest. What are you thinking, sir?
I'm not the biggest Kamala Harris fan. I'm not a fan of her stances on Palestine and her history as a prosecutor, but I feel like even among black people, nobody was really that crazy about Kamala Harris. I know that a lot of my friends didn't vote because of that. They didn't vote because of the situation in Palestine, but we can't afford a Trump presidency. So I'm nervous for what the future has to hold, but
It doesn't mean that things can't get better. I think the people are moving in one direction despite the fact the government may be moving in another direction. Yeah. And I always have faith in the people because
There's still laws intact. This is still democracy. Yeah, no, the world is not gonna go to an end.
No, it ain't gonna be the end of the world. It's gonna be the stop of the progression of some, and it's gonna be the spark of the progression of others that are already ahead.
All right, we are at Howard University. It's a pretty prestigious
I think we have progressed far enough. I don't know about anyone else. I feel like this country has pretty much progressed, actually a little bit too far. I'd say a little bit too far. We need to regress. I think we overshot it a little bit. Yeah, too far. We got to regress, rewind it back a little bit.
HBCU here in Washington, D.C.
So historically black college, right, just means historically black. It doesn't mean only black. Actually, historically black colleges are the only universities within the history of the U.S. that don't have a history of discriminating based on color, creed, culture, and it's really cool because it was founded by Union General Oliver Otis Howard, 1867.
Cool.
It was the daughters of those Union soldiers who were white women who were the first students.
Yeah. And Kamala Harris was supposed to deliver what appeared to be like an address to the nation or a victory speech at the amphitheater right here, but
you won't hear from the vice president tonight.
Seems like everybody's walking away at the same time. She currently has, I think, 210 electoral votes, and Trump has 240, something like that. So spirits are pretty low. Hopes are definitely dwindling. So we're going to talk to a few people and see how they feel and why they left the speech.
It's not looking too hot right now. It's not over, but, it's just...
I don't feel like I want to go to school tomorrow. We're both PhD students, so I wanted to work at...
What's your PhD in? What are you studying? What are you researching?
The Department of Education. Big Republican push is to get rid of that.
And I'm going to close the Department of Education and move education.
So what was it, 1974? Hold up. Was 74 Carter? Hold up. I'm doing it. Department of Education. Oh, fuck. I spelled education wrong. Dude. I think I might need the fucking department. Wiki. Okay. Bring it over here. All right. What's up? Yo, what's up? The U.S. Department of Education is a cabinet-level department of the U.S. government. It began operating May 4th, 1980. Having been created after the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare was split into Department of Education, Department of... Okay. So, since 1980 and the advent of the Department of Education, have our students become more literate and more mathematically, historically proficient, whatever? Have they become better students, higher achieving students, or have they become lower achieving students? That's a curious question. In fact, you guys have probably seen, it's a funny tweet. It was a black woman that posted on Twitter. She said, hold up, wait up. So you're going to tell me that, 2 out of 3 kids can't read and 1 out of 3 kids can't do math and blah, blah, blah. And you still want to get rid of the Department of Education? Are you out of your goddamn mind? And it's like, listen, bitch, the Department of Education is the reason why all the students are retarded. It is the reason why these problems exist, sweetheart.
Back to the states.
For the uninformed viewer, what's their motif behind, taking away the elements of the Department of Education?
I think they think it's like a waste of money and resources.
What do you study, man?
I study U.S. history.
What's your favorite chapter of U.S. history?
I guess what most people consider like the Gilded Age and Progressive era. So that's like between 1877 and like maybe like 1919, if I guess I had to periodize it.
So Reconstruction?
Well, Reconstruction is before that. That's 1865 to 77, and then the Gilded Age and Progressive era is right after that.
And there was an era of terror inflicted after Reconstruction, wasn't there?
Yeah, so that's why I said it's known by most people as the Gilded Age and Progressive era, but honestly, I study African American history. That's my specialty.
Really?
And that's considered the nadir of American race relations, and that's like the darkest period of like race relations in American history.
Yeah, because the South Carolina State Senate was like, what, half black in 1880?
Yeah,
people don't
during
understand
Reconstruction,
that.
yeah.
And so what do you think is the most important element of U.S. history to teach young people, black or white?
I think it's that U.S. history is not centered around a bunch of great men like the presidents. You know, there's a lot more grassroots history, like history of the people, and, you know, it's not just, you know, say, like learning about like white people. It's, you know, everybody, Native Americans, African Americans.
That is the single most important thing that we need to teach about American history to our students. The single most important thing. And this guy is an American history PhD student.
Asian Americans, Hispanic Americans, like all those stories matter. Like you got to understand all of it, and you really won't know the history of the country if you're not familiar with any of that.
I think that the slogan "Make America Great Again" calls into question as it relates to people of African descent throughout the diaspora. When was America ever great?
Yeah. In America, here's a great answer to that question. In America, for a long time, I'd really say for the first probably 210 years of American history, maybe more. In America, we had this mindset that we can do anything. Doesn't matter what the problem is, doesn't matter what the turmoil is, we as a nation will overcome. Yeah, if we have a problem, we can fix it. We can do anything. We are capable of improving and solving our problems and fixing. It was never like, it was perfect in this year. Oh yeah, when was America great? Tell me exactly what year. No, it was this belief, doesn't matter what the problem is, we can fucking fix it. America, we can do anything. Doesn't matter what the problem is, what the issue is, we're gonna get it taken care of, okay? That sense of like American optimism seems to have faded. Seems like we really don't have that anymore. Do you guys agree? That sense of American optimism and patriotism, we can do it together, we are Americans. Doesn't seem like we really have that as much.
Determine what was the time frame that you would recollect that there was actually equal opportunity that was provided to all. And so I think if you're looking at the Reconstruction period, which was then followed by the Black Codes, whatever gains that occurred during the Reconstruction will eventually reverse.
You feel like America was great during Reconstruction?
I think that if you move a knife from 7 inches out of my back to 5 inches out of my back, and then consider that to be progress, I don't think that's actual progress.
Like obviously it is. Are you fucking retarded? Obviously, if you go into an emergency room with a knife in your back, and the emergency room surgeon has to very carefully get that knife out. Don't want to hit an artery or nick a nerve, a spinal nerve or something. Gotta do it very carefully. Yeah, if you can get that knife out 2 inches, it's not all the way out. You're making progress. Hold up. Doctor, have you made any progress? Yeah, I've got it at 2 inches. I need more time though. We're not done. Wow, looks like you're making progress, doctor. I know, I am. Now shut up. Now let me get this knife out. Of course you're making progress.
Progress is actually trying to heal the wound.
The reason that I continually bring up the Reconstruction period is because that was the last time the U.S. actually attempted to implement a federal reparations program, not like the Uhuru-style interpersonal $5 donation model.
Can I have $5?
Are you serious?
Yes.
But administered by a governmental organization called the Freedmen's Bureau, which no longer exists. Reconstruction basically began the same day the Confederate Army lost the Civil War to the Union, giving the federal government control over the southern states, where approximately 4 million slaves had just been freed. The Freedmen's Bureau was tasked with helping them integrate into society as free men.
So, I'm going to pull up a U.S. map. I'm going to show you guys something here. So during this whole Civil War thing, you know, the North is fighting the South. Whoa, it's crazy. My ancestors were about here in the Dakotas, and they're looking down there saying, not my problem. All of that down there, it's not really my problem. And then they just kept on moving west. They ended up in Idaho, Montana, Idaho, Oregon. My bloodline, we kind of skipped out on the Civil War thing because we were homesteaders, we were frontiersmen, we were Oregon Trail, we were living on the range. It was awesome. It was awesome. And I actually remember all of it, even though I wasn't alive, because I know how to tap into my, we like to call it ancestral blood memory, ancestral blood wisdom. So I can actually I can see all of it. And it was cool. It was cool. It was awesome. It was great.
This group was called the KK.
Whoa, hold on. I just skipped in the video. My bad. Where was that? Like right there, I think.
Lost the Civil War to the Union, giving the federal government control over the southern states, where approximately 4 million slaves had just been freed. The Freedmen's Bureau was tasked with helping them integrate into society as free men, which obviously would be quite difficult given the fact that none of them had any land or any possessions. So they began by giving the men voting rights and enacting their famous 40 acres and a mule allotment to newly emancipated slaves. By 1875, in states like South Carolina, there was actually a higher proportion of black lawmakers holding office than there is today. And for a moment, it looked as if things were heading in a positive direction. But then, a small group of former Confederate soldiers who had formed a social club in Tennessee had an idea. That idea was to target, terrorize, harass, lynch, and assassinate black politicians and anyone, black or white, who even considered voting for them. This group was called the K.
So back then, they didn't have hoods. They had they were like dressing up like unicorns or something. Toilet plungers. The fuck are these? What the hell is going on?
KKK, whose plan was made possible during the 1876 primaries, during which, for whatever reason, the Freedmen's Bureau decided to withdraw troops from polling stations in the South, where they'd previously been protecting black voters from racial violence. The day the Bureau pulled the troops, the Klan put their plan into motion, and everyone knows what they did. I don't find it necessary to bring up individual instances of grotesque violence for dramatic effect or anything like that, but it's important to note that the original purpose of the Klan was to terrify black voters into staying home during election day, and to run black politicians out of town with threats of violence. And it worked. By the elections of 1878, there was almost no black voters in Georgia, despite them composing a third of the state's population. And it's been undoubtedly proven by now that the then Democrat parties in states like Mississippi and Louisiana actually hired the Klan to terrorize black voters. And so by 1880, Reconstruction was over. The Freedmen's Bureau had closed. Every state in the South was under neo-Confederate leadership, who swiftly passed something called the Black Codes, which limited black Americans' ability to own property, conduct business, own firearms, and travel freely. It also enforced strict sundown laws related to vagrancy, which set the foundation for chain gangs, forced labor camps, and the prison industrial complex. While the federal government was initially horrified at the unraveling of Reconstruction in the southern states, they would ultimately side with them in 1902 during Plessy versus Ferguson, defending segregation under the dubious separate but equal premise. The following 60-plus years are referred to as the Jim Crow era, which officially ended in 1964 when the Civil Rights Act was passed.
This Civil Rights Act is a challenge to all of us to eliminate the last vestiges of injustice in our beloved country.
For some perspective, that means that the average current 22-year-old black American's grandmother or grandfather was in 8th grade when Jim Crow formally ended in '64. So the legacy of Jim Crow and the unkept promise of Reconstruction is still something that's very much alive.
And the destruction of different levels of what we consider successful black towns and cities, in which they use the highway bill to be able to cut through and destroy those particular communities.
You believe in modern reparations?
I definitely believe in reparations. I think that it's something that's owed, just as there's been reparations paid to other groups, whether it be the Japanese who were interned during World War II, whether it be levels of monies that were provided to people who are Jewish during the Holocaust. I think there's always a need to provide some level of reparation when harm has been done. The question would be, what might be the right way and process to do that?
Well, I mean, if it was to be distributed on an individual level, that calls into question also financial literacy among the recipients. Because
I think that it was done systemically, and so you need a systemic policy to address systemic racism and discrimination.
Yes, would that look like more educational investment?
I think education investment would definitely be a key component of it, but I think that where At this particular juncture, there's additional levels of discussions that are still being ongoing about the fact that it's needed. And to me, unequivocally, it is not only needed, but it is owed.
Yeah.
And subsequently, we just have to get to a place to be able to figure out what might be the best ways to be able to implement it.
Yeah, I agree, man. I appreciate you. You're from the South or the East Coast?
Pardon me?
From the South?
From the East Coast.
Okay, cool.
And what's your name?
And
So I wonder, who would be paying into the like, where does the money come from, right? Because most white people never owned slaves, or maybe the white people, their ancestors showed up after slavery ended, right? So like they never even could have had slave owning ancestors because they weren't in the country yet, or they did, their white ancestors were in the country, but they never owned slaves. Like most white people did not own slaves. It was like less than 1% as far as I know. And then beyond that, also, like would a black family get reparations in America under this program if they showed up in the country 20 years ago? Like let's say you're a black family from the Dominican Republic, right? And you showed up in 1998, okay, for instance, as an example. Would you get reparations even though your family was never, you know, owned as slaves? You don't have a slave ancestry in this country. It's a lot of nitty-gritty stuff you'd have to work through, I think.
Andrew Callahan. Give me a thing.
and just like if you look up Channel 5.
Give me a second. I'll have you write it down.
Yeah.
How about that?
What's up, guys? Here at Channel 5, we want you to be safe, whether it be on the streets of Washington, D.C. during the election, or just surfing the web from your phone or on the computer. That's why we use
We love NordVPN. Yeah, what if you are like 1/8 black? What if you're 1/16 black? Do you get reparations?
I have more great news. NordVPN's having a massive Black Friday sale, so if you want to use my link, www.
As I walked through the Kamala Harris rally, most people had accepted that she probably wouldn't win the presidency.
I'm really disappointed because I didn't have enough time to register, because Texas, you have to register before 3 weeks before. So I had to vote as a DC resident.
But still, some people held on to a sliver of hope.
Hey, we're coming back. We're down 20. We're down 20. We're down 20.
It's 230. We
down
almost
20. We
back.
down 20.
Look. Kamala, she needs to win Wisconsin,
My parlay's still live.
Pennsylvania,
My parlay's still
Georgia,
live.
and maybe Michigan. And we're in there. Nobody get no fuck about Nevada or AZ.
Fuck Arizona.
Fuck all that shit. We respect the people out there, but nah, like this is what matters. It's about what matters right now. We've been out here stressing all night.
We need
this. Might be the second bottle tonight. Like, we out here. But nah, look, I don't enjoy what Trump did to the Central 5.
He spent $85,000 on a full page.
By the way, real quick, when Donald Trump in the New York Times newspaper said that the Central Park Five should get the death sentence, he said that after the Central Park Five in a court of law had admitted to doing what they did. They admitted to it. They admitted to it in a court of law. And that's why Donald Trump said, he said, okay, well, if they said they did it, then this is what should happen.
In the New York Times.
And then later on they recanted, they changed their story. But at the time that Trump said that, they had admitted to it.
For our execution.
Any three of us could have been a Central 5 in Manhattan. If that's how you
bro, you probably shouldn't say that. Shouldn't say that.
Gonna represent a large portion of America.
Yeah.
I can't get behind.
What did they do? It was a terrible act of, I'm going to make this YouTube friendly, collective grape. It was it was not good.
Behind that, because that's the demographic that I'm a part of.
So you feel like on a moral character level, he's just bogus?
Yeah, hell yeah.
Everything Trump stands for, he doesn't stand for women, he doesn't stand for people of color. So honestly, I think Trump being president, it just means like the end of all of us having rights and being seen as human beings. And I feel like with Harris as president.
Dude, how are you this insane? Like, how in the hell are you actually saying this? You think now that Trump is in office, you're first off not going to have any rights, civil rights, whatever, freedom of speech. Like, what do you think is going to happen here?
She, her goal is to see everyone as people and help everyone.
When it comes to voting for the president, right, you're voting for someone who's going to select the heads of the Department of Agriculture, the Department of Commerce.
Yeah.
And I, believe that, especially with her, she would choose more qualified individuals.
I think as we get even closer and closer to the end of the timeline and within which we can change the effects of climate change,
Another 4 years of Trump as president would be horrible for that. It would be horrible for the Middle East. It would be horrible for...
If Trump gets in office, climate change is over. The world, it's on fire. There's no coming back. Do you guys kind of feel like the public dialogue is moving on from climate change? Like, you still have some dumbasses like this. I feel like it's like not a lot of people really talk about it these days. I think the climate crisis, people have kind of stopped giving a shit.
For women's rights, for protection for the LGBTQI. I don't think a Harris presidency would be perfect, but I think in every way possible it would be better than Trump.
And that's the whole issue. I feel like even among black people, nobody was really that crazy about Kamala Harris, but it was just the fact that she was not Trump. And at the end of the day, you can't really run on being not Trump. You have to be more than that. And you have to do more for everybody, not just black people, but everybody in general. Class issues matter a lot more, and people don't talk about class issues. People don't talk about imperialism. There's a lot of stuff that people don't talk about, and they focus on the culture wars. But the culture is still very important. Me coming from like a Caribbean community, I'm really worried about like how people are going to attack the Haitian community going forward. I really don't like it. The cats and dogs shit is bullshit. You know, we all know it's lies, but...
Hold up. What is this? Breaking, Donald Trump has reportedly chosen Vivek Ramaswamy to serve as manager of 7-Eleven. That's not funny. That's super not funny. That's not funny. Hey, not funny.
Regardless of who would have won, our country still would have been in crisis, and especially what's going on abroad in Palestine, in the Middle East. Things would have not have been all well and good, but at the same time, with a Trump presidency, it makes it so much worse. But like I said, if Kamala had won, it still not would have been like an amazing outcome.
How much do you think the Biden administration's policy on Israel affected the current outcome today?
I definitely think that Kamala Harris capitulating to right-wing framework on issues is really what alienated people like the people that we know who were just like, absolutely not. I'm not gonna, like, what are you talking about? You're gonna finish the wall. Like, it just doesn't make sense. What are you talking about? We have to tolerate lower grocery prices for a genocide in Palestine.
Did Kamala Harris ever say that she was gonna finish the wall? I feel like I never heard her say that.
I know that a lot of my friends, they didn't vote because of the situation in Palestine. I personally think it was still worth it to vote.
Yeah, that's true, my fellow Kamala Harris voters. I just couldn't vote for Kamala in good conscience because of the whole Palestine thing. So, you know, I was going to vote for Kamala, but I just stayed home. I just didn't do it because of Palestine. It's fucked up. Really pissed me off.
Trump presidency's nothing good, bro.
Channel 5 Live Worldwide, Hollywood and Vine.
Fuck the authority, Channel 5 News.
Channel 55. We don't fuck with Castro.